to defer your tuition grant payment, you have to submit your file at least 6 weeks before the. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Stella in Singapore. So if you're new to my channel is mainly sharing about Polytechnic, my educational journey and some of my lifestyles. In the future, I will be going to university, so I will be sharing more about university as well. So today's topic is about tuition grant deferment. I'm not sure if you have watched my video about tuition grant and tuition loan. If you haven't done so, you can go and watch this video to understand more about it. So because, right, I explain more detail in that video. So in this video, I will just briefly mention about what is tuition grant and then tuition loan. So first of all, you need to check whether you're eligible for the tuition grant or not. For all Polytechnic students, you're eligible for the tuition grant. So for PR, permanent resident in Singapore, and all the international students are eligible to take tuition grant. But you can choose either take tuition grant or without the tuition grant. So let's say if you take the tuition grant, you have to work in Singapore for 3 years. And the Polytechnic tuition fees without tuition grant will be 24K plus per year. And then for those with tuition grant will be 12K per year. So next will be tuition fees loan. For tuition fees loan, you need to have Singaporean or peer guarantor to sign for your tuition fees loan form. This is that if you are unable to pay back, the guarantor need to pay back for you. And in the previous video, I mentioned that for tuition fees loan, you can use the physical form and go for that. However, they changed the rules that you need to use the digibank to apply for it. So since I have roughly mentioned about what is tuition grant and then the tuition loan, let me dive into what is tuition grant deferment. And actually in your final year 3 semester 2, there will be a briefing session about tuition grant. So as I mentioned earlier, you need to work for 3 years in Singapore if you take tuition grant. So they will mention about that in their briefing, and if you are unable to do so yet, for example, you have to serve for national service in your country, or you are going for overseas study, then you want to defer your tuition grant payment, then you can do tuition grant deferment. And actually, all the information that I will be mentioning in this video is available in the MOE website. So I will also put the website in the description box, and then you can refer to that for more detail. So one of the concerns that most of the parents and students have is that because if you take tuition grant, you have to work 3 years in Singapore. So they may think that right after Polytechnic's 3 years, they have to work for another 3 years in Singapore just to attain the diploma. So it's not like that. So right after Polytechnic, you can choose to go university directly. And it can be either local universities or overseas university. That's why the tuition grant deferment comes in. Then who should apply for tuition grant deferment and who do not need to? So for those who are going for local universities with tuition grant, you do not need to apply for the tuition grant deferment. So actually, if you take tuition grant in university, you have to work for 3 years in Singapore. So for Polytechnic, there will be 3 years, and then for university, there will be 3 years. Then you guys may think like, oh, so if I go for Polytechnic and then local university in Singapore, so I will be trapped in Singapore for 6 years and I couldn't migrate to another country. It's not like that. So let's say you attend Polytechnic and then local university with tuition grant. So there will be only 3 years working in Singapore to pay off your tuition grant. So you can pay off concurrently. For those who are choosing to go universities without tuition grant, or for those universities which are not eligible for tuition grant, or if you are going overseas universities, or if you're going for national service in your own country, then you need to apply for the tuition grant deferment. So how to apply for tuition grant deferment? So in the MOE website, they have mentioned that you have to submit your form at least 6 weeks before the start of your course. And then the procedure will be tuition grant form, submitting tuition grant form, which is available in the MOE website that I put in my description box. And then next will be bank guarantee. So for both of them, you need to have the proof that you are going overseas studies or the national service in your home country. So next, for bank guarantee, when I'm reading website, I do not understand properly, so I call the bank to ask more about it. So for bank guarantee, they say that if you are applying for bank guarantee previously in your Polytechnic, you need to have the tuition fees loan with this bank so that they can be your bank guarantee for your tuition grant deferment. So this is about tuition grant deferment submission, and right after your overseas studies or national service, you have to come back to Singapore to work for 3 years. So regarding 3 years work, what I understand is that as long as you work full-time job in Singapore, this is counted towards this tuition grant 3 years work in Singapore. And it is not necessary for you to work in something that related to your study. It can be any area, but full-time job. So there are some few common questions regarding this 3 years tuition grant work. So first question is that where you get a salary. Yes, you are just normal full-time worker and you will still get your salary. Second question is that whether government or the school will find the job for you. No, you have to find for yourself. It is same as the normal procedure for those who are finding the full-time job. Okay, so what about if you couldn't find a job? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, it is not necessary for you to find a job that is related to your study. Of course, if you can find a job that is related to your study, it will be the best because you can increase your skill, networking, and then there will be career progression. However, it is not the case for everyone. So let's say if you couldn't find a job in your area of study, you can choose to work in any other area just to pay off your tuition grant. Okay, so one last scenario is that let's say you completed your Polytechnic, but you do not want to stay in Singapore or you want to migrate to other countries permanently and do not want to work 3 years in Singapore. Then you have to pay your tuition grant because initially you are paying tuition fees with tuition grant, which is 12K plus per year. Then now you decided to not to work in Singapore. So you have to pay the tuition fees without tuition grant, which is 24K plus per year. On top of that, you also need to pay for 10% compound interest per year. So after I calculated, it will be around 80K to pay off if you are not working in Singapore. Okay, so that's all about tuition grant and tuition grant deferment. I hope that this video is useful to all the students who are coming to Singapore for Polytechnic study with tuition grant. For all Singaporean students and friends, you do not need to worry about this tuition grant because it is free for you guys. And then you are free to go for overseas studies or you can choose to any other country to go. So this is only for PR and international students going for Polytechnic with tuition grant. If you have any other questions, please feel free to approach me via Facebook page, Instagram, or Gmail, which I listed down here. I also put the link in the description box so that it is easy for you guys to find me. One more thing is that I'm also open to collaborate with any other organizations and brands. So if you want to collaborate with me, please feel free to email me or message me as well. So that's all for today. And if you haven't liked or subscribed this channel, please remember to do so. Bye bye and see you guys in the next video.